Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you a quick way to debug and find out where your programs are crashing using GDB. Now it's not always guaranteed to work and it depends on a lot of things, but if you are just doing some basic programs, most of the time it'll at least tell you the line number that it's crashing. If you'd like to know more about GDB debugging, there's a lot more detailed resources on the internet. So here we have a little program that has a little bug, and if we were to test it by compiling it, it's called bad.cpp. Well, we would see that it's not compiling. Well, first of all, that's because we need to compile it with the std equals C++11 flag because we are using a C++11 function. So there we go. Now it compiled. And so if we were to run our program with the command line argument that it's expecting, it's working fine. However, if we happen to run it without that command line argument, it happens to crash. Now, this isn't very specific about why it's crashing. So one of the things that we can do is recompile the program and add a -g flag, which will add more information to the debugger. So if you compile it like that and then run it again, it runs the same if it's working, and if it's not working, it still crashes the same. But now what we can do is we can go ahead and open up GDB by typing GDB and then the name of the executable file, which in this case is a.out. And then if you see this, it means you have GDB installed, which is a good thing. And so in here, to run your program, all you have to do is press R and then pass any command line arguments. So suppose that we're just running the program with the command line argument 10, and it should run fine. And you can see that it runs, and you can see the output here, and then it terminates by saying exited normally. If you want to quit GDB, you can just press Q and you're out of it. But of course, we're trying to figure out why our program was crashing, so let's go ahead and run GDB again, and this time not pass any command line arguments. When you run it, you will see that it says here, it starts printing out the output, as it would if you were running it on a terminal, but then it says, terminate, called after throwing instance of std logic error. You could Google this and find out more details about that, but for now, one of the very, very useful things to do is to type the keyword backtrace. And that's going to show you your call stack when your program crashed. And you can work your way from the bottom up to see what line of code crashed. And now these line numbers are given to you because we put the -g flag. So let's go ahead and look at line 13 of our C++ file. That happens to be this line, I believe. Yeah, okay, I was looking here. There we go. Here it'll tell you line 13. So that's this line. Now, if we go ahead and look at the next line of the call stack, it's calling the function getSize at line 6 of the same file. Now that happens to be this line. Okay, from there, it is calling the constructor of some internal function probably having to do with s2i or some string stuff, and then it's calling more internal stuff. But unless, we didn't code this C file, we didn't code this C file, we coded bad.cpp. So the fact that these are unknown to you and what this is, that gives you a sign that this is internal stuff, meaning that your problem is probably at this line, because unless there's a bug in C++, which is very unlikely at this level if you're watching this video. So then it tells you that something is wrong here. So now we can kind of analyze and say, okay, what is happening here? Well, we're passing in C, which is a pointer. Now in this case, what is C pointing to? Well, what called getSize? Well, it was called by line 13, which is here. Well, the parameter that was passed in was arg. What is arg? Arg is a pointer to the first command line argument. Well, this is the part where the debugger's limitation is going to end, at least this kind of GDB debugger, unless you know more about how to use it in detail, a variable watch. But now I'm going to tell you that the problem here, of course, is that we are expecting it to pass the first, or technically the second command line argument given, because always the first command line argument is the name of the executable, a.out. And so because when we ran it that second time we didn't pass any command line arguments, then this is probably null. And so maybe you're getting a null pointer exception, or at least it's garbage because we didn't pass that second command line argument, which is then why when you call this function, it's passing a garbage pointer, and then when it's trying to convert that garbage pointer into actual character to convert it into a string, into an integer, which is what this function is doing. It's called string to integer, is converting a character into an integer. Well, that's garbage character because it's a garbage pointer, and that's why it's crashing. So now, instead of just staring at our code and hoping for, some divine influence or illumination to find out where the error is, you can at least know to look here. And if that doesn't tell you much, look what called it, and so on. Obviously, it's pointless to look at this stuff. Start from the bottom. This is going to help you really to identify where your problem is, and hopefully you can start looking around. Odds are, it's not always going to be the problem. In fact, technically, this line of code is correct. The real problem is actually here. And it's only a problem when you don't actually pass a command or an argument. Now, what can I do to fix this code? Well, I can go ahead and check to see what ARGC is. And if ARGC is like less than 1, or actually I suppose less than 2, then I can go ahead and return or see out. Well, for now, let's just return the program so that it terminates, By the way, when you're finished checking that, if you press quit, it'll ask you where you want to kill the process. Type yes. So now let's go ahead and recompile our program and go ahead and run it. And you can see already that it worked, didn't crash. It just terminated because it probably hit this ARGC less than 2. And then the other version works just fine. So now there you go. We went ahead and fixed, or patched, I suppose, this program. But more importantly, you have seen how to use GDB. If you were to type GDB again here, a.out, and you were to run it, then it would finish okay. So you can always run your programs directly on GDB. They're going to be a little bit slower and more stuff around them, but it's nice. While we're at it, quick reminder how to run Valgrind. Valgrind, you should type in Valgrind a.out. Sorry, you got to put in this case the /a.out. And you can see here any memory leaks that you would have or any errors detected. So don't confuse Valgrind and GDB. Valgrind is meant as a memory leak tester. GDB is a debugger, hopefully trying to find bugs in your program and debug them. Alright, thank you for watching, and I hope that this helps you complete your assignments on time.